Hi, this is Christopher Bruzzo. Welcome back. Today we are here with a clone of the DAPRA XM-3 Marine Sniper Rifle. But before we get into that, this video is dedicated to YouTube user who does not like it when I wear undergarments on YouTube, so this video is dedicated to him. Okay, so now that we get that out of the way, this is a failed, sort of-ish, attempt at making a new sniper rifle for the Marines. So, during the invasion of Iraq, sniper platoons put out a urgent needs statement saying they needed a shorter, a lighter, rifle that was quiet, suppressed, had a better field of view, and was better suited for the cities in Iraq. So this was not a official statement to create a new sniper rifle for everybody. I think 102 of these were made, something along those lines. DAPRA, which stands for Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. So DAPRA set out to make this rifle that suited the needs of the Marines. It's an extremely good rifle. These were first requested in 2005, and DAPRA contracted Iron Brigade Armory, which is no longer in business, which we'll address this little section of the rifle when we get to it. But they wanted a complete sniper system to meet the Marines' needs for day and night. They created, I believe it was 2 prototypes to go in testing against the Mark 13 Mod 5 and the Mark 11 Mod 0. And the rifle passed testing extremely well, 10-inch groups of 1,000 yards, which was a requirement, most performing under that. And they used the 175 grain Sierra Match King 308. It's a 308. I didn't say that, but I guess it's kind of a given. But yeah, they used a 175 Sierra Match King, and I believe most are shooting Black Hills ammo. Yeah, it met the requirements, and it was first sent out in early 2006. In particular, the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force in Camp Pendleton, California, and then the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force. And to my knowledge, those are the 2 battalions using these. Others may have. I know it went to various places in the Marines for testing, and I'm not an expert on this rifle by any means. This is just what 5-6 hours of research turned up, and consulting with the person who owns this. This is not my rifle, and built this rifle. So I'm not an expert. If I say something wrong, please comment and let me know. So, I said previously it was kind of a failed attempt. It's because they made the initial run of rifles and didn't make any more. When 2012 hit, the rifles had a lot of rounds on them, The scopes had a lot of complaints, which are not unlike my complaints, which certainly hampered its performance in the part 2 of this, where I shoot it at the range. But it needed to be fit, upgraded, needed to be rebarreled. I mean, this is 6 years in the field. And these rifles were theater assets, so they did not travel with platoons in and out. They stayed in theater. So when new snipers arrived, they had no training, no knowledge, no experience with these rifles. They were relying on dope and notes from previous snipers, which is part of what led to its downfall. That there was no training program and no armorer's program. So a lot of these rifles were not being maintained while in theater, and when 2012 hit, they were in bad repair. They needed new barrels, they needed to be rebed. People were asking for better scopes, and they wanted a detachable box magazine. Now I've already I posted part 2 prior to this because I need to do more research. I've already seen comments stating these did not have detachable box magazines, and no, most did not. They had the Badger Ordnance M4 trigger guard, which I love. I have it on several hunting rifles. It's a great trigger guard. But for a tactical application, not well suited unless you're hunting. So again, I am not an expert on this rifle, but there were apparently at least one, very likely two, that came into existence with detachable box magazines. So let's back up a little bit. And in 2012, these were kind of taken out of service, and the Marines either needed to refurbish them, upfit them, and make them suitable for the conflict going forward, or destroy them and send them to a landfill, presumably, or a third option, which they pursued, which was selling them, or more accurately, auctioning them through the civilian marksmanship program to civilians. Now, when they did that, they did not have suppressors on them, which this doesn't, because I am not on the gentleman's trust who owns this rifle, and he wasn't there when I shot it, and I've had this at my house for 6-8 weeks, something like that. So thank you, Vinny, for lending this. But yeah, he couldn't lend me the suppressor with it, whole NFA stuff. Even though I own several suppressors myself, I can't borrow his, and none of mine fit this muzzle device. So it would have been nice to shoot it without it, but and actually, this is a flash hider. It's not a muzzle brake. So shooting this unsuppressed, if you go look at part 2, it pounded the shit out of my shoulder. I have not shot a non-hunting rifle or a tactical rifle that kicked this hard in a long time, because even if I'm shooting unsuppressed, I'm going to have a muzzle brake. Nobody's going to pound their shoulder with a 308. Not that it's super high recoiling, but that's kind of like anything more than 308 doing 100 plus rounds in a day is not fun. I mean, you sit me down in front of a 300 Win Mag, I'm tapping out at 40, 50 rounds. It's done. My shoulder is just pulverized meat. And they did shoot these rifles without suppressors, which I wouldn't want to do. I'd much prefer the suppressor. Anyway, the CMP auctioned off a number of these rifles, not all of them. Don't know where the other ones went. Actually, 2 of them went to the Marine Wartime Development Program or something like that. But from what I found, there were like 56 of them auctioned off, and prices were insane. Now, it was a complete deployment kit. So you had the rifle, the case, notebook, cleaning stuff, had a night vision device with it, everything but the suppressor. You had the stock pack, and I believe you had the original book with the log arounds and stuff like that. So from what I found, they sold for about $16,000 to the highest one at $27,556 for a Remington action rifle with a Nightforce scope. That's insane. This is an awesome rifle. I believe the owner is going to use it primarily for deer hunting, because he has a ton of tactical rifles that are much better suited for shooting long range than this. But dare I say I wouldn't pay $6,000? No, hell no, I wouldn't pay $6,000 for this. But it's a great rifle. So I guess let's get into the specs. These are the specs of the XM-3, and when we get to a slight deviation, I will point that out. Now, the owner of this rifle is heavy into cloning and has several clones, which I will also be covering here, hopefully, if he's nice and lends me more rifles. Like Mark 12s, Mark 13, M40, Mod 0, M40, A1, stuff like that. But this is the first one I'm covering, and it is a clone. It's not original, but the parts were spec'd as close to original as possible. So the stock is a Macmillan A1-3. It was originally dubbed the A6, but later took on the nomenclature A1-3. And compared to the M40A3 that they were shooting at the time, this was much lighter. I don't know the specs on the fill, but this is much more like the M40A1 stock than the M40A3 stock. So it has an A1 rear end where the comb was raised 1/2 inch to help with scope alignment, and it has the M40A3 fore end. The finish under it is olive drab, which this is covered in rattle can spray paint, which I believe just about every single one out there is also covered in rattle can spray paint. You have an adjustable length of pole back here. 2 screws, loosen them, and there are spacers you can put in. I did not measure it, but it's pretty comfortable for me, so I'm guessing it's about that 13.5 inch length of pole that I like. You can see from your comb here. Now this has a Triad Tactical stock pack on it, where the original should have Eagle Industries. This is kind of a reproduction of it. It's the right color, but not the exact same part that the original would have had. But you can see how the height here to the butt pad, there's a significant amount of drop there. And shooting prone, I only shot this, actually shot off a tripod, just when checking zero, but as well as prone. But I primarily shot this rifle prone, and the dip here, the distance to my shoulder when I was laying down was not comfortable. I felt like the bipod needed to go higher to get the rifle kind of up for me, and it just was not a comfortable shooting position. Granted, in that type of shooting, I'm used to my AI-AX, which is completely adjustable back here, up, down, left, right, comb, up, down, left, right. You can even adjust the trigger shoe for the exact pull you want, but I found that uncomfortable. And at the 1,000-yard range, I shot 100 rounds, and it was just grating on my collarbone. If this were my rifle, I'd do something. Probably a higher bipod and just kind of sit up a bit more when shooting it. Tolerable, but not for, an afternoon of shooting. So we mentioned the Triad stock pack. It should be Eagle Industries. They're effectively the same thing. There's a notch in the comb here for when the bolt comes back, just like the M40A1 stock. And the trigger area feels a lot like a varmint style stock or a hunting style stock, a thicker hunting style stock. You have the slightly swept grip area and not straight up and down like modern tactical rifles. I don't know if I shot this thumb over or with thumb on the same side. Generally, when the grip gets pushed forward, I go thumb on the same side, but I wasn't cognizant of that. But it's a comfortable grip. I just wish that butt was up higher. So coming forward, this is probably the most controversial part of the rifle. The M5 detachable box magazine. So, as I said earlier, there's at least one person that posts online who received one of these through CMP auctions that had a M5 bottom metal, and I think there were two, but cannot confirm that. That was, again, one of the upgrades they wanted to do to the other ones. Most of them had Badger Ordnance M4 bottom metal, which is a fixed floor plate. I think they hold 4 rounds, 4+1 rounds, top fed, just like a Remington BDL, but it's a beefier steel bottom metal. So the trigger is a Remington Walker style trigger, tuned by Iron Brigade Armory, and this one has got a pull weight of about 2.5 pounds. It's very good, no creep. The ones issued pulled between 3.25 pounds and 4 pounds, likely just negligent discharge and that sort of thing. But this one it's a bit lighter. There's a very, very, very slight creep, which is partially why I like 2-stage triggers, but you can barely feel it. This is like I saw a post where GA Precision is looking for people with Remington Walker triggers to send them into them, and they will send you a brand new Diamond Tech whatever, some sort of gamer trigger in trade for your Remington Walker trigger. That says a lot to me, that the original Remington 700 trigger is way more valuable than some $180 whatever dollar gamer trigger. And I mean, okay, triggers are a completely different subject. I'm not getting into that now, but that says that these are very desirable if GA Precision is begging for them. So coming up to the action. So this is a Trude Remington 700 action, obviously short action. S prefix serial number, and can't see it because of the paint. Yeah, S66 ... So right era action. It's been Trude. The threads on this are spec'd out to be 1.070 inches. So there's plenty of meat to open up the bad factory threads and fix them or true them. The receiver itself is clip slotted. This one was clip slotted by Long Rifles Incorporated. And it's got an extra cut on the thumb, which most clip slotted ones do not. The bolt itself is, I wish this had a side action. Oh, can't get it off. Damn it. You gotta take that off. So anyway, yeah, you get the horrible release down here, common on Remingtons, but you get a Badger Ordnance bolt knob. The bolt knob is properly timed, TIG welded, and the bolt face Trude. These are supposed to have Man of War finishes, which is a trademark of Iron Brigade Armory. I don't know what finish this has, whether it's... It looks to me like black phosphate, but it very well could be just blued, or... I don't think it's Cerakote, but yeah, I'll put up here what finish this actually has on it. So the rail here is a 20 MOA rail, and this one does not meet the original spec. It is a steel Badger Ordnance rail for the clip slotting. Iron Brigade Armory effectively duplicated this rail in titanium, presumably for weight. But yeah, they duplicated that in titanium, and they're virtually unavailable now. You'd probably have to spend as much as he's on the whole rifle to source that particular rail, and it's not that important. I mean, it mates up to the clip slotting perfectly, and Badger Ordnance makes great stuff. So, coming up, we have Nightforce scope rings. They are called the Extreme Duty 30mm 0.885 inch scope rings. I think I have these on my 300 Win Mag, but I might have changed them since I got rid of my Nightforce scope. Don't remember. I mean, they're very decent rings. No lapping required. They're high quality, just like Badger Ordnance is, but they're aluminum. So that is holding what I view as the Achilles heel of this rifle, the scope. This is a Nightforce NXS 3.5 to 15 by 50 scope. Now, the ones they issued were second focal plane and MOA adjustments. This scope is first focal plane, intentionally did not follow that second focal plane, which was first focal plane when they were talking about updating these in 2012, and mill adjustments were one of the requirements. They had, at that time, in sniper school, they weren't teaching MOA, and I personally, this is the first scope I have shot at distance in MOA, and holy shit was that eye-opening. Presumably there's no difference, it's just a unit of measurement, but oh my god, look at part 2. I think I got most of it out, but I was just complaining. I'm like, holy shit, this is like, I'm hitting 42 MOA at 1,000 yards, getting all messed up on my wind holes. You're holding like 2.5 MOA on wind at 500, 700 yards. It's absurd. And you're counting revs. So you're just wrapping this thing around, having to add, 20 to all your numbers. It's just give me mils. I mean, the world has accepted mils as the proper elevation unit. Works better, yes. You get more fine adjustment on this, but man, like when I was going to the range, I was talking to Vinny, and he sent me his Kestrel data. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to dial. I'm just going to hold over in the reticle like I normally do. And so with my 6 mil, 1,000 yards, I'm at like 6.5, 6.7, 6.8 mils. Where my reticle, I've got my wind holds out to 10 mils, and then I think I have like 25 mils of holdover where it goes to a grid. Anyway, he's like, yeah, you aren't getting anywhere out there holding over. The reticle only goes to 10 mil or 10 MOA. I'm like, okay, 10 MOA. Yeah. So when I get out there and look at my, no, I did not hold over. I wish I could have. I would have hit more targets, seeing and adjusting, but no. Thank God it was first focal plane, but no. Mills have won out for a reason, in my opinion. Post your hate down below. Yeah, so scope should be second focal plane. Thankfully it's first. MOA, I don't remember what reticle it has. It's completely useless, so I'll post the name up here. And the hardcore clone people are saying, hey, you should have Butler Creek covers on that, which he has, but they aren't on here because with Nightforce NXS, the original NXS scopes, I'm changing the magnification of the scope now, and you see the ocular rotating. So when you put a flip-up cover on here and you change your magnification, it rotates. He finds that annoying. I do too. I usually don't. I have Tenebrex covers on a lot of my scopes, and especially if I'm hunting or in competition in the morning, I'll get there, they'll have the scope covers on them, I just rip them off for the entire day, then I'll put them back on. I don't know why I even bother with them, but we have a similar mindset there. So no scope covers on this one. I guess that leads us on to the barrel. However, the receiver is bed with DEVCON or Marine Techs. I would assume the bottom metal as well, but it didn't explicitly say that. So there's actually very good bedding on this. He did a great job on the bedding. And backing up between the receiver and the barrel, there is a titanium recoil lug. Dissimilar metals, I'm not a huge fan. They have different coefficients of thermal expansion, but they chose to do a titanium recoil lug. Obviously opened up for the 1.070 thread major diameter, but yeah. So this is a Hart barrel, 10-inch right-hand twist, and Hart offers an XM-3 contour. They only do it a few times a year, and I remember him waiting to have these run. 6 screws, it's a 416R stainless, and it's very similar to a number 7 contour, but the shank is shortened to approximately 2 inches from 4 inches, and the muzzle's 0.85 inches diameter. So I guess there's not too much fancy there other than the contour, and they did that to lighten the rifle, which seems a bit odd to me because they're attaching a suppressor, which is heavy, and generally when I put a suppressor on rifles, I'm going for a heavier barrel. Although, as you've seen in my 300 Win Mag video, I will potentially flute the barrel. And there was at least one of these made with a fluted barrel for the Marine wartime something or other. If you want to save weight with a suppressed barrel, there's a suppressor on a barrel, going a larger diameter and fluting for the same weight generally produces a stiffer barrel. It's going to depend on the fluting geometry, how many flutes, and every barrel is different, but gross generalization there. So I probably would have opted for that. They didn't. And here we are. So this is a Surefire muzzle device on the 18.5-inch barrel, which they call the CA762SSAI. As I mentioned before, it is simply a muzzle brake. It looks a lot like a A2 flash hider, but the suppressor, a Surefire FA762SS, which our silly laws did not allow me to borrow, fits on here and actually fits back on the barrel. So the overall length of the suppressor is not as much. It's not 18.5 inches plus your suppressor. It is less than that, which I don't have any Surefire suppressors, but that's a very good design. I prefer direct mount suppressors. They're generally a bit more accurate and repeatable. But the only I have some couple SIGs and a Mac Brothers detachable, and they're accurate as well, but they don't come back over the barrel, which is a great design. I don't know how functional it is or how functional it is compared to one that fits in front of the barrel, but that's what they chose, and due to as this rifle has several rifles set up for those and likes them. The bipod is a Harris 6-9 notched legs with a pod lock on it. this little lever which allows for adjusting it. But in my opinion, once you adjust it, you don't need to keep touching it if it's adjusted properly. So whatever. And the two controversies with this build are obviously the DBM I mentioned, and there should be a night vision rail up here. Those are very, very, very hard to source right now. Iron Brigade Armory is out of business, and Badger Ordnance makes one. But it is not proper for this rifle. It should be the Iron Brigade Armory. You could put the Badger Ordnance one up here for the night vision device, and it would look the part. To the trained eye, it wouldn't, but it would look the part, but it's not the right part. So I have, I actually drew up in CAD for the owner of this rifle, reproduction of the Iron Brigade Armory, and I believe he has some mill time and he's going to make his own. So this will have a night vision device up here, or night vision rail. I don't know if he's going to add the night vision device, but it will have the proper night vision rail up here. It does not right now. So that's, in my mind, this is explained away with a little bit of research. Now, granted, most of them didn't have that. But at least one came home with this, whether it was retrofitted in the field. Nobody really knows. Somebody bought one and it arrived with the M5 bottom metal. This is required and it will be updated soon. I think this rifle's only been done for about 3-4 months, maybe 6 months. It certainly wasn't done last hunting season. So yeah, check out part 2 where I shoot this from 500 to 1,000 yards. I didn't show just checking zero at 100 yards, but it was certainly 3/4 of an MOA rifle. I was fairly rapid fire. I'm not somebody who tries to shoot small groups, but it was 5/8 to 3/4, just trying to check zero before I went over and expelled a bunch of ammo at targets. And going back to actually shooting this thing, Nightforce has fans, to put it nicely. I am not a Nightforce fan. I've had Nightforces. They're okay for hunting, but if this was wearing a Schmidt and Bender 3-12, 5-25, 3-20, 4-16, whatever, I would have made way more hits. This scope, I mean, the adjustments are accurate. You know, the view was adequate, but holy shit, is the glass bad. It was a hot day with a ton of mirage, and there were so many targets where I had no feedback due to a cloudy image, not good parallax adjustment. So at the range, this was probably my biggest gripe. There's no distances on this parallax adjustment. It is just lines. And then an infinity symbol. They're bolder on this side, thinner on this side. What the hell does that mean? So I'm there trying to set parallax, jumping between targets, and it was horrendous. Put distances on there. Schmidt does it, and they don't always match up exactly, but it's a place to start. But there were so many targets or distances where I was not seeing my misses, and it was just a bunch of boiling mirage. I would have had this scope was probably awesome in 2006, but for today's standards, my God, take it to the trash and throw it away. Give me a Schmidt and Bender. Hell, I'd probably take a Vortex HD over this. Not good. And I see why there were complaints with it, but it's accurate for this rifle. And if Vincenzo wants to take this hunting, it'll probably do well. Yeah, I mean, you weren't hunting here. Yeah, this is going to be fine for hunting. I've hunted with a bunch of NXS compacts, and they're decent scopes. Second focal plane, which I don't like. Thank God this was first focal plane, but yeah, great rifle. Mediocre-ish scope. I'd probably take a fixed 10 power SWFA over this HD. But, roast me in the comments, do what you want. Check out part 2, which is already up. And until next time, enjoy.